Thank you, everybody. Yeah, Keith caught me. I got
Caught you
caught.
again.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody, to the K&B Music Den. This is Brad, as always. And
And
you,
I'm
sir?
still Keith. Still Keith.
Very good. Well, what are we on now? Is this the third or fourth installment?
I believe this is the fourth of the
I
DISCNOLOgy.
want to make sure you're doing your math, keeping all this in
Yeah,
your head. So, yeah,
I'm
this is
trying.
episode 4 of R.E.M. DISCNOLOGY. I don't even know if
Yes.
we spell it right in the note. I don't know if that's spelled right,
Hey,
pronounced
it's
right.
our
Who knows?
when you invent it, you can invent how to spell it too. That's what I
Yeah.
say.
So, who the hell cares, I guess?
Yeah.
But this week, we are touching on which album, Keith?
I hope it's the one I did notes for, Life's Rich Pageant.
You didn't waste time. Good to hear.
Okay.
So yeah, this one's a near and dear to me because, as everybody knows, when you're collecting CDs and you decide you're going to go to records, you got to start somewhere. This was the first record I purchased when first and second. I bought two at the same time, but this was one of the two that I had when I went to Record Connection and made that purchase. So definitely one of my favorite R.E.M. albums. So I was really excited to kind of get into the meat and grits of this one and learn a little bit about it. So, what did you think, Keith? Spending a week with Life's Rich Pageants, what did you think?
Well, man, I tell you what, I listened to it many times. This was another one where I felt I wasn't as familiar as I should be, but more particularly the second side, to be honest, side B, whatever they called it. I wrote in my notes something about dinner and supper or something.
That would be the supper side.
The supper side, yes. They're so clever, aren't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, that second side I wasn't as familiar. Most, if not all, the first side I know those songs really well already, so that was nice to just revisit them anyway. But yeah, before we dive in here, buddy, you've piqued my interest. What was the second record that you bought at Record Connection?
It was a Police album, and I can never say the name of the damn album.
Zenyatta Madonna?
Yeah. Yeah. So that one was just a spur of the moment. It was there, good price, so I grabbed it. But
that's a great pick too.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sad about it.
Yeah. But enough about that 3-piece. Let's get back to our 4-piece here.
Certainly.
So I tell you, Life's Rich Pageant, again, like I said, was one of those, along with Fables that we did last time. Probably the two that I felt like, man, I know them, but I don't know them like the back of my hand. Like a lot of their later stuff, which we'll get to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could, like I said, I could sing every word. I could tell you every beat, every note, because I've been obsessed with them for so long. So some of this early period, I just didn't live with as much when I was growing up, and I think a lot of it had to do with when I got into R.E.M. And my age and all that, and so I think that's part of it. But like we typically do, I'm just going to give some highlights, little factoids about the album itself. We can discuss the album in general a bit, and then we'll dive in song by song like we always do here. So you may know, Brad, and you can definitely hear it in the music, that they went and switched producers again for this one.
Yeah. And I like the direction this one went compared to the last one.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of this album, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So another new producer, this time it's Don Gehman. Now, he was known at that time for being the producer of John Cougar, that became John Mellencamp, then John Cougar Mellencamp. So it's interesting. The band actually recorded this album in Mellencamp's studio. I don't know if it's right at his house, but it's in his hometown in Bloomington, Indiana. So that's where they set up camp. The label, and I think the band themselves, wanted them to work with Gehman. His goal going into this, as he was said in different interviews, was to bring power and directness to their sound. There was a lot of mystery with the first 3 albums, which is very cool, and adds to the mystique, especially with Murmur and everything. But they weren't necessarily going for a hit per se, but he was going for that direct sound. Like we said, he was best known at that time for working with Mellencamp. They became friends with John Mellencamp actually during this process, and kind of hung out and partied with him, from what I read about. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. I like John Mellencamp. So I think just kind of that, roots rock, that, the big drum sound, and just the power and directness, like I said. I think, obviously shines through on this album. So I'd say it's kind of checks the box, mission accomplished as far as what the band and the producer were looking to do.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think it gave some direction. It kind of, because like you said, between the Murmur, Reckoning, and then Fables, you kind of weren't sure what direction they might go in. And I think he kind of put them on a straight line.
Yeah.
He said, this is where you guys are in your wheelhouse. And yeah, I think he nailed it.
Yeah, I think so too. The and something else that I thought was really interesting. Don Gaiman was really the first person to directly challenge Michael Stipe about his lyrics. Not just the clarity and the enunciation, which is kind of we've talked about before in the earlier albums, but the lyrics themselves. Like I said, not just the delivery, but more so even the lyrics themselves. He would say, hey, what are you singing about? Why are you singing this? Like why are you choosing these words for this music? And no one had ever said anything like that to Stipe. And there's some stories early on when they first started to work with Don Gaiman that Stipe kind of did some of this and kind of stormed out of the studio a couple times and was like, who the fuck is this?
I can understand that.
Stipe. I'm Michael F. and Stipe of R.E.M. Who are you questioning? But after, in hindsight, Stipe has been quoted as saying, wow, that really did a lot for me as a songwriter. It really kind of maybe, not just pick words to pick them or pick a topic to pick it, just like, does it fit with the music? Is this the best way to tell the story? What are you saying? Why are you saying it? So I think, Stipe ended up really appreciating that relationship that they built.
I wonder how much it changed the wording on the records and the subject matter. Would we have had a very different, lyrical output if he wasn't there?
I think you're right. I mean, I think from what I was able to glean from my research, I think there was at least a couple of them where, he kind of just, all right, well, let me just go a whole different direction here. So,
Interesting.
Well, and it harkens back to the, how important a producer really is, if you let them in. I mean, if you keep them at arm's length, and you're almost kind of begrudgingly working with a certain producer or a producer at all, a lot of bands like to think that they can self-produce, and very few can. And it's typically later in their career where they kind of have been in the studio a lot and they kind of get into that rhythm and they kind of want to experiment with, hey, let's produce this one ourselves. And it's resulted in some great albums, don't get me wrong. But, to have that person that is not a member of the band, that's not going to, there's not going to be grudges, and there's not going to be like, well, my drummer didn't like my song, so now I'm pissed at him. They can all get pissed at the producer together as a collective band, and it actually bonds them.
Yeah, I mean, that's good for solidarity.
Yeah, it really is. Let's see, what else did I find out here? Peter Buck also learned a lot from Don Gaiman, how to mic the guitar amps in different ways. Buck was quoted as saying, I always used to mic it, just real close right up to the amp, put the mic right up to the amplifier speaker, because that's what we always did live.
Sure.
And, and in the studios, it's a whole different ball game. It's a playground. So, Gaiman was like, hey, what kind of sound do we get if we put the microphone, 6 feet over this way into the side of the amp? That kind of stuff. And Buck was like, whoa, blew his mind.
Mm-hmm.
But I know he used that throughout the rest of his career with R.E.M. and elsewhere. So, Brad, did you bother to look up? Probably not, because I'm doing all the research here for this series. But do you know, since it is one of your favorite albums here, what Life's Rich Pageant, like where that comes from, that phrase, or what it means?
Sure. Did you want to do you want to act it out? I mean, I have the script right here.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I mean, you could either be Maria or what's his name here? Oh, is it Agent or Inspector? What's his name? Inspector Costal.
Yeah, I'll be the inspector. Go ahead.
Okay, you'll be the inspector?
You be Maria.
Okay. Well, first you're going to crash your car into a fountain.
Yes.
Okay, so you gotta.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I'm all
okay,
wet.
Here's my girl voice.
Yeah.
You should get out of these clothes immediately. You'll catch your death of pneumonia. You will.
I'm sorry.
You're breaking character.
I didn't stay in character. I just want to pause for just a second. I was really unclear about why Marge Simpson was part of this video.
That's my girl voice. All right, I can't help it.
Oh, dude, that was great. Whoa, there's a big Stein. Oh, so what I should have said was, oh, I hope I don't know if there's a bigger line, but all I have is it's all part of life's rich pageant.
Yeah, you missed a little bit.
Oh,
yeah. He says, yes, I probably will, but it's all part of life's rich pageant, you know?
Oh, okay, there's the full line. Thank you. Well, hey, you did your research better than me on this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a cool title. It's a cool.
Yeah.
They said that they were on tour, and if something would happen, they would show up to a place and like the PA blew up, or they broke down. One time, at least one time on the tour with the van, they had to miss like a whole day, and they had watched that movie. And they would always say to each other, that was kind of the inside joke, like, something went wrong. Oh, it's all part of life's rich pageant. So they're like, hey, let's call the album that. I think it's kind of cool.
It's a great album name, yeah.
Without an apostrophe, of course. That's so R.E.M.
Yeah.
But we already talked about, the dinner side, supper side, where they did on other albums. They did, left and right or whatever, different things. So they never like to just say side A and side B, at least up until this point in their career. We'll stay tuned into that as we move along. But there's oh, by the way, speaking of the album itself, first of all, obviously we both own the album, but here's my copy.
I didn't even grab mine because I knew you had yours. So
yeah. Yeah, but Brad, I'm kind of embarrassed. As long as I've had this album and enjoyed it, I guess I never really stopped to realize that that's Bill Berry, the drummer. I mean, if you said, hey, that's one of the band members, I mean, it's obviously Bill. I don't know if I probably knew that in the past and just forgot. I don't know. But the more embarrassing part is this bottom half has a picture of two buffalo.
Yeah.
And I never noticed that.
Yeah. Two bisons down there just hanging out.
I never noticed that. And I think it's because I always look at the face.
The face draws it out, but that is faded in the bottom, but
yeah,
especially a way to show the ecology side of the album.
Yes, and also, haha, here they go, pulling our leg again. Get it, Buffalo Bill?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Very cool,
very cute. But again, I don't know how well you folks can see this at home, but the album, two of the songs, the 12 songs on this album that are on this vinyl I hold in my hand, are not listed on the back cover.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, these guys like to F with us, and quite frankly, I'm getting tired of. No, but what a great album, and like I said, before we go in song by song, something I think that speaks to you, and I always thought, Brad's always talking about life's rich pageant. At one point in the past, we did a podcast before with our favorite songs and our perfect album and things like that, with our buddy Chad from the Music Lab podcast. Check that out. And he said, you said, I'm sorry, in that episode that this was your favorite R.E.M. album.
Yeah.
Is that still true, first of all?
It's going to be tight because you know how I we'll see. Let me
we don't want to give away too much, but
there's one or two coming that are definite contenders.
Yeah, might be a three-way tie.
It might.
But I tell you, this is something that critics and people have said throughout the years, and I totally agree with it. This is R.E.M's version of a punk rock album.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The energy, the immediacy, the urgency, even just the sheer tempo of most of these songs, not all, but most of them, it just draws you in, man. It's just like it demands your attention.
Yep, I agree. It's a fan. This album in general, to me, always stood out as when the band found its stride. This is where they're at, and the songs were just spot on. Yeah. So I mean, it's fascinating hearing about Gaiman because I'm wondering how much he had to do with directing it into that direction. Because lyrically, I love this album.
Yeah, I think from what I can tell, I think he had quite a bit to do with how this album turned out and how great it is. Quite frankly,
it is.
And again, this band just absolutely astonishes me. you know, I don't think we're going to end up talking in depth about any album that we think is weak or bad in any way.
No,
they're just different, so wow, yeah, this has been so much fun. So let's get it rolling here with song by song. But I just want to talk a little bit about the album itself at first. I know it's one of your favorites, and yeah, I have a whole new appreciation for it myself after living with it. I mean, I've listened to it countless times the past week or two. So, but we all know the first song. What a great way to begin! Yeah.
Yep.
In the begin. Now, this new R.E.M, and I say that because of Gaiman and just kind of where they were headed, is introduced loud and proud on this. There is, as you notice, there's newfound power in Bill Berry's drumming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was doing, they were doing kind of that folky sound and but he's flexing his farmer's muscles, as they would become, right from the first second of this album.
And Gaiman did a great job of capturing it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It's not just the drums. There's crisp guitar tones that I talked about earlier about how they mic them and things. And Stipe's voice is more up front now.
Oh yeah.
And some would argue even more intelligible. And my favorite lyric in this song, and it comes very early on, is "The insurgency began and you missed it."
Mm-hmm.
It's just, that's so Michael Stipe.
It is Michael, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't have a ton of in-depth research on this one, but just now I'm pretty sure I have this right, and I'm going off the top of my head, but I'm going to go for it. Something that always stood out about this particular song for me is, I now live in York, Pennsylvania. I've been from Lancaster most of my life. The amazing band Live hails from here. And I know I read something or I heard about something back in the day when R.E.M was on tour. I guess it was at Hershey or Philadelphia, I'm not sure, where Ed Kowalczyk came to check out the show. I don't think they were opening for them at that time, but he was there for whatever reason. And Ed Kowalczyk came up and sang "Begin to Begin" with Stipe.
That's pretty cool.
I thought that was pretty cool. So
those voices would be an interesting blend.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And honestly, kind of looks a little bit like Ed Kowalczyk on that guy, doesn't it?
There's a little too much hair on top now, but
yeah, a little bit of a Kowalczyk vibe there. But so yeah, I mean, as a way to start the album, one of your favorite R.E.M albums, we're finding out.
Yep.
What are your thoughts?
Oh, it's a great opening track, and like you said, lyrically, musically, he captured it beautifully. So I mean, it came right out the gate strong. I mean, that's what you want from an opening track. Yeah,
and that's another thing I'm noticing about R.E.M. Even more so that we're doing the deep dives here. They know how to start an album.
Oh yeah.
I mean, geez, of the 4 we've done so far, it's just, and they're very different types of songs on each one, but they really kind of set that mood. Here we go.
Yeah, they come out running. They don't come out walking.
Yeah, exactly. Well put.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoy this song, and I love that how everything just kind of comes to a quick halt, and it does that Peter Buck riff throughout the song. Oh
yeah.
I mean, that is just so cool.
It is.
And again, lets you know, like, this is not Fables. This is
different.
Yeah.
Not so much of that purposeful dissonance in this one.
Exactly. So that's why you're latching on to it.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's go right on to track 2, These Days. This has a frantic pace to it, and I think it makes for a powerful 1-2 punch with these first 2 songs on this to start the album. Excuse me. Gaiman directed Buck to be more economical with his guitars. He said, don't layer tons of guitars on just to do it. Are they serving a song? Are serving the song? Do they serve a purpose? So I think that's something that has stayed with him throughout his career too. And I love these lyrics. To me, it's kind of like, I'm wondering, is this kind of a celebration of youth in general when he sings, fly to carry each his burdens. We are young despite the years. We are concerned. We are hope despite the times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always like that line. We are young, before. What is it? Young despite our years. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I really enjoy that line.
Yeah, and I love "We Are Hope" despite the times. I think it speaks to us very much in 2023 as
Oh
well.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, and again, it's catchy, it's kind of punky, but if you really sit and would like read the lyrics almost as if like they were a poem,
Oh,
or an essay. And again, Stipe with that what I call cerebral songwriting. I mean, it's unique. It's really impressive to me.
what must it be like to be in his head 24 hours a day?
Oh man.
Yeah,
Probably cold because there's no hair up. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to offend you.
yeah.
Are you cold in your head?
Once in a while, yeah,
Winter's coming. Winter's
it's
coming.
coming.
Yeah. So any other thoughts on these days? You like that 1-2 punch?
Oh, it's a great 1-2 punch. I think it's my favorite 1-2 punch to open an album from R.E.M.
Okay.
Of what
Yeah.
we've listened to so far.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I have to think about Reckoning because I don't remember the order offhand, but South Central Rain is such a big song for me, but I don't even think I think that's a third or something.
I believe that was third. Yeah, I don't think that's second.
Yeah. Yeah. So this might be it for me too, actually. So now we go on to the third song, which I think is probably the most well-known song to the general public and casual R.E.M. fans on this album.
Probably. I would
That's
say
my
you're
guess.
probably right.
Yeah. And that's the song "Fall on Me," of course. It was a great single that, I did my research. It inexplicably stalled at number 94 on Billboard's Hot 100 chart.
Sure.
I mean, wow.
What other 93 songs were there out there? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know.
Damn.
Well, and what year was this? 86?
89. What is it?
No, it wasn't. This was 1986, right?
Oh, 86? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like, from what I can see, I should have brought my readers. But yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I got that.
I think they started recording in 85 and it came out in 86, if I
Okay.
remember. But so I'm just trying to think what would have been around to have so many songs ahead of it. But again, they were still a little bit more underground at this point, more of like with the college rock and all that.
Correct.
Yeah. So
I
as we
wouldn't say
know,
they're household just yet.
yeah, I mean that's coming on our next one document. So we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But the song was actually initially written about the perils of acid rain.
Really?
But Stipe later confirmed it's really about oppression and you can apply it in whatever way you want and need to. That's what Stipe said. So now this I thought was very interesting. When R.E.M. played their Unplugged, they played this song and Stipe introduced it to the crowd by saying, he said, "This may well be my favorite song in the R.E.M. catalog."
Damn, I didn't hear that.
And now this was 1991, so they already had another album or two out after this one.
Wow.
So, yeah, Stipe's huge on this one.
Well, I am too. So, I mean,
I was going to say, but
part.
that was my next question. How huge are you on it?
Big. I mean, again, this whole album for me is big. So,
yeah, true.
I struggle with ranking these songs. They're all fantastic on this.
Now, that being said, I have to put you on the spot and ask you, would you still say this is a standout?
Yeah. I mean, I got standout. I'd probably put 4 or 5 tracks in standout category.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So this would be one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always liked this song. I think this is the one I remember that when they put the music video out, it was just like the lyrics on the screen.
I didn't see it. I didn't see the video.
Yeah, which is, very. I mean, just the fact that they even did that for a video and like showed the lyrics compared to the early stuff, and everybody's like, "Oh, what's he saying?" and all that crap. So even that's kind of a, interesting change of direction, so to speak.
It is.
But we are on song number 4 here, so we're still on side dinner, I guess. And this is the beautiful Cuyahoga.
Cuyahoga.
Now, I remember when we did our podcast, like I said before, this was on your perfect album for R.E.M.
This is a song I really enjoy. I do really enjoy this. Would be one of my top 4 or 5 on the album still, even going back and re-listening. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't this about the Cuyahoga River that caught on fire? Am I not?
You are correct.
Okay, I thought so.
In Ohio.
Yeah,
And the reason why it catches fire from time to time, I don't know if it still does or did back then, it's because it's so polluted.
yeah.
Yeah.
What a mess.
Yeah, so that's wow. But it's an interesting, again, this is another great example of Michael Stipe observing something and not just being like, oh, wow, that's strange or that's interesting, turning it into a whole song,
Oh yeah.
which is a talent, which is a unique talent.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really listen to the lyric, the song calls for the repair of America, both politically and ecologically, of course. I'm gonna flip my notes here. As I
You
always
take
like to
notes?
say, of course I didn't memorize all this. I've always it's always jumped out to me, this lyric on this song. I've loved this, where he sings, "Let's put our heads together and start a new country up."
Yep. Yep.
That's again 2023. I mean, I think maybe people should listen to this album and be like,
Oh
he's
yeah.
onto something here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I agree. No, he's I mean, he political, ecological. I mean, personal. I mean, interpersonal. He touches on so many different topics in so many different songs.
Yeah.
You don't feel like there's anything out of bounds for him at this point. So hearing him
True.
write ecological songs is like, yeah, I mean, sure, why doesn't he?
Well, yeah, and it meant something to him. It meant something to his bandmates, and they had the platform, and they, I thought it's a unique and a different kind of thing that not a lot of bands do, and not a lot of bands, quite honestly, I think would have a song like this in their album that I would find to be genuine. But it is coming from these cats.
Absolutely.
So before we move on, with Cuyahoga, like I said, you had 12 songs you could pick out of their entire discography for your perfect album that we did on that podcast back in the day. And Cuyahoga made the cut. Tell me why.
Well, to that point, now that was a year or two ago, I believe we did that.
Yeah.
That was a song that really still stood out to me. Now, I was heavily influenced by the earlier R.E.M. and middle area here. Like, I've now recently gotten more and more into the later stuff too. So I don't know if Cuyahoga would still be top 12.
Interesting.
But it's still high up. I mean, it's still on this album number 1 or 2 for me. So I mean, it's fantastic track. Would it still be a top 12? I'm not so sure.
Gotcha. And we may have, without realizing it, piqued people's interest. So I just want to be clear that podcast is available on Spotify, a bunch of different streaming services. It's still up there. You can see how inventive we were when we came up for the name for this channel. So the old podcast was called the KCB Music Den, right?
Yeah.
KCB Music Den. So check that out. We did Perfect Albums, which is Brad's amazing concept. We did, R.E.M, Counting Crows, Pearl Jam, Def Leppard, Incubus, Michael Jackson, just a ton. Oasis. So check that out.
Morissette was our biggest.
We did Alanis Morissette. Yeah, that was fun.
She was our biggest view.
Oh yeah, we got the most listens on that. So if you're interested, guys, that was a real fun time with our buddy Chad. So check that out. KCB Music Den on Spotify and other streaming services where podcasts are found. So back to this album, and I think I hear a screeching hyena.
Hyena. Yeah.
Oh, Mark Simpson's back.
Yeah, no kidding. You love that voice.
Hey, I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you want to tell me about this song? And then I'll give you some facts here.
There's not a whole lot of facts, but when this one comes on for me, this has one of the most Michael Stipe sounds to me. That high, like, it's just, I only think of him doing that. I couldn't picture any other singer coming in and singing that song. Like, I don't know why, but
yeah,
me, that's Michael Stipe. That's a Stipe song.
Yeah, that's a Stipeism.
Yeah, Stipeism. Yep.
Yeah, man. Well, this is an upbeat anti-nuke song, really. It was actually initially recorded during the sessions for Fables of the Reconstruction. And then when they revisited it for Pageant here, they sped it up. So it was kind of more mellow and mid-tempo, and then they sped it up for this, which is it'd be interesting to hear. I think there's a demo on the deluxe version.
You saying that, I can actually picture the song slow down.
Yeah.
It does sound sped up. So I can 100% hear that almost.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty sure the expanded deluxe edition of this Life Switch Pageant does have the demo version. So I'll be interested to A/B them. I didn't get a chance to do that, but I think I will now that we're talking about it. But Mike Mills, the bass player, and many other things to R.E.M., has been quoted as saying, "Hyena is the song I absolutely refuse to play live."
Oh shit!
He just does not dig it.
I wouldn't put it on my top, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, to hate this song, I don't see anything hateful about it.
Well, you know, he never used the word hate, but I think we could read between the lines there in that quote. But
Yeah.
But the lyrics I love in this song are, "The only thing to fear is fearlessness. The bigger the weapon, the greater the fear." So it's going back to that anti-nuke theme, which is what I found in my research. So, and again, world conscious. Again, not always so just bluntly political, but more about, you know, humanity in general, like we talked about before with this band. So again, another strong song. You know, yeah, this is well, we'll talk about the side A, side B thing in a moment because we have one more here. So
do
what
we know?
Well, yeah. Wait.
I mean, it's just a blank track, ain't it?
Well, no. What do you mean a blank track?
What does it say on there? What's
Well, not only is it a blank, it's not. There's only 10 songs here, and there's 12 on the album. But did you notice they're in the wrong order too?
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Come on.
They gotta mess with you. It's part of the whole thing.
Yeah, this is wow. Keeps me on my toes though. But so yeah, man, this is an actual song. It's called "Underneath the Bunker." Now a lot of people refer to it as a short little instrumental. But Stipe actually does sing a little bit towards the end of the song. You know, the few lines of lyrics that are there, it's hard to understand when you're listening to it because it does sound like he's singing through an intercom. But this did show kind of a more fun, lighter side to the band, to kind of just tack this on. You know, apparently they were just kind of goofing around and in the studio and just jamming on that little, it sounds kind of, I say has a little Latin feel to it, maybe. Yeah. So yeah, it's primarily instrumental. It's fun. To me though, it does, you know, inadvertently maybe it does serve a purpose of showing off the instrumentation skills of the band. I mean, it's kind of a cool little piece. Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool, but it definitely is more of a interlude, if anything.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe that's why they didn't put it on. But that doesn't explain why they didn't put Superman on. But we'll get to that. So we are halfway through. We are flipping over the vinyl now. Before we get into the next song, which is called "The Flowers of Guatemala," generally speaking, as I know you're very familiar with this album, and we always talk about side A, side B. Is this more of a side album than a side B? Do you love this one so much that it's just kind of all great for you, or do you feel that side A is a bit stronger?
I mean, if you were to weigh it out, I think side A is a tiny bit stronger, but I think side B is very good itself. I mean, it's no slouch.
No, and I agree that, you know, when we talk about, oh, that's a side A album, we usually mean it's noticeably stronger than side B.
I wouldn't call this noticeably stronger.
No, not the case here. You know, like you said, if you did weigh it out and really think about it, I think A would get the edge, or dinner side would get the edge. But yeah, and again, like I said, this album for me, going back to revisit for this deep dive, I was more familiar with side A. So, but back to the tracks, we are starting off the second side, the supper side, with "Flowers of Guatemala." Now, this is another of many R.E.M. songs that speak about social injustice. It's got an absolutely beautiful melody. And you know, I read and I agree. I don't think I would have come up with it on my own. But it's kind of reminiscent of a more gentle song that maybe like Velvet Underground would have done.
Sure.
So, and just that repeating lyric that they go to in the, I guess it's the chorus. the flowers cover everything. They cover over everything.
Mhm.
It's just, it's beautiful. I mean, it's really,
Oh,
really
it
beautiful.
is.
Yeah. And to me, this was probably the song on the entire album that jumped out at me, saying like, you haven't paid enough attention to me in your life, and now I think you're going to.
Yeah.
This is there were several, but this was the top one, I would say, in that category, where it was just like, wow, remember this
Yeah, if you
song?
weren't familiar with the supper side here, then yeah, I think that would stand out to you.
Yeah, yeah. So it's gorgeous. What is this like? Would you consider a standout for you? Or what are your thoughts on? And also, what do you think about it starting the next side?
I like the way it started it. I do
Yeah,
think this is the right way to go to start the side. It's just not one of my standouts, though. I mean, it's a good song,
yeah.
but the next song is one of my standouts.
Oh, well, yeah. I can totally understand that. So let's just jump right into it.
Yeah.
The next song is called "I Believe." Very high energy tune to follow the flowers.
Yeah.
More downtrodden, mid tempo vibe, or even slow. Let's say. Um, Now, that little banjo intro that starts the
Uh
song?
huh. Oh,
Now,
absolutely.
Peter Buck was learning to play the instrument. He was literally just figuring it out. Like one of the first few days he even had it in his hands. And without him knowing, they were just recording. And they said, "Oh, that's a cool little like riff, let's just throw it on the beginning of this." It doesn't really have anything to do with the rest of the song. Um, but again, that's another point to like with Underneath the Bunker, where it's just fun, it's lighthearted. Not everything has to be so serious and have this very special purpose. Everything that we do on the album, it's just kind of like, hey, let's tack that on there. It sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, and it works beautiful. I like the way it opens it. It's cool.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, not even just R.E.M, but I love when bands do that, where you get to a point with an album, like, you can't imagine that not there, even though
Oh,
it doesn't necessarily make sense.
it belongs though. The way it just once you've heard it 2 or 3 times, you just like you said, it's there.
Exactly. You
It
couldn't
is
imagine.
infuriating to non-musicians though, like that tidbit you just shared.
Yeah.
Someone like me, I gotta torture my hands, sit around, play for months, years, and I can play 7 chords. And you musician assholes can pick up an instrument, fiddle around with it, and write a song. It's insane.
Yeah. Well,
It's insane.
the different bands I've been in, it's like I've been lucky enough to, on a couple different occasions in bands that I've been in, have a guy like that on your side. Now, when you got that Swiss Army knife guy on your side, you love him. But when you go out and see a band and you see him grabbing like 5 different instruments in the first set, you're like, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's total jealousy. I mean, it's not actually, I'm in awe is what it is. So I'm not actually mad at the person. But yeah, well, Mike Noecker from Shame.
That's what came to mind when you said
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so let's see. Oh, what else did I put about this? So we talked about the banjo intro. Now Stade explains the lyric. Now, did you notice in this song, I'm sure, because you love this album so much, when he sings, "When I was young and fever fell, my spirit I will not tell." That is actually about, he had scarlet fever at age 2.
I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, now I don't know if it was his parents kind of retelling it to him, and that's how, but the way that I read the research is when he was being interviewed about it, it almost sounded like he remembered the experience himself, and he was only 2,
Yeah.
which is astonishing.
I didn't read the interview, but the lyrics pointed me to thinking that might be what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And he said he remembers, I guess he was having like visions and different things. And I mean, to remember that from age 2, I mean, it's a very intense experience. So maybe that does stick out. But yeah, I mean, I don't remember what I had for dinner yesterday. So to remember that from age 2 is pretty impressive to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the energy in the song, I can see why this is a standout for you. It's like a locomotive. It just keeps coming at you. It's really, really a great song.
I think that sometimes when they're in their best, when they're just trucking, they're just moving along.
Yeah.
That they just, between his vocals, the sound, Mike Mills and Peter Buck. I mean, they just have that down, that trucking running sound, like what's the engine song? Engine
Driver
number 8.
8.
Yeah,
Driver
driver
8.
number 8.
Yeah.
And what else is on that? Is there something about an engine or something? Driver number 8, and then
oh geez. Yeah, there's a couple train songs on that album.
there is, I thought. Okay.
Yeah, Driver 8 and Auctioneer.
Oh yes, I think that
Yeah.
might be it. Okay.
Yeah. Whew.
But yeah, I digress. But yeah, that's when I think they kind of hit their stride.
Yeah. Well, we've got a handful more. Let's see if there's any train songs on this album.
There might be.
Yeah, there might be. It feels like there should be. It's an R.E.M. album. But here's another one. What If We Give It Away? Now, this song has a bluesy swing to it, and Buck has said, in hindsight, he wishes it did not make the album. Now, the song does date back to 1981. So I see you kind of nodding along. Is this kind of a weaker point for you here?
Well, the funny thing is, I don't find anything on this album particularly weak.
True.
But this is one that if they did have another song in the canon and wanted to try to swap them, this would be one I probably would recommend they try to swap with.
I totally agree.
Okay.
And I don't dislike the song.
No.
But I totally agree. Oh, by the way, tell the folks what you're drinking tonight, buddy. Give a little shout out.
Tonight is going to be Boddington's English Ale.
Pub ale.
Yeah.
All right. Looks good.
Very good, yeah.
Can you put your glasses on and tell me the alcohol content on that?
Oh, well, let's see. Well, it's 1 pint. And it's my second one.
Okay.
So, but no.
That doesn't say. I mean, it's not jumping out at you.
It doesn't. Not that I can see. Let's put it that way.
He doesn't want to tell us, folks.
Like 14% probably. Who knows?
Yeah. No, I was just curious because I want to see by the time we get to the end of the video, I just want to see if you're slurring your speech.
Oh, no.
I'm
Definitely
kidding.
not.
I'm kidding. Look at Brad. He can hold his liquor. Look at this guy.
Bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you think it all goes?
But anyway, speaking of digressing, so yeah, I agree. I don't dislike the song, but it feels more like, if they would put out the deluxe version years later, like they did, and be like, oh, this was a song that we were toying around with. This was in contention for the album,
and you could have put it on the album. Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. That's a spot it could have gone.
That's how I feel too. So, it's a cool little song, but just doesn't really come across as a standout for either of us. So we're gonna move on here. So now we go to Just a Touch. Now this song is manic and explosive. It was originally written in 1980, by the way. So this is again the band going back to the early days and saying, hey, this song was cool, but maybe it just didn't fit on Fables, just didn't fit on Reckoning. Let's revisit it. Let's change it up. So it's hard to tell from the lyrics, but the band has been quoted, particularly Stipe, of course, as the main lyricist, saying this song is actually about August 16th, 1977. Do you know in music history why that date is important?
I do not.
I would not either if I didn't have it in front of me. But it is the day that Elvis Presley died.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's a lot later. I mean, I thought it was 70s. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I thought it was closer to the end of the 70s or early 80s too, for some reason. But it's kind of interesting. At that time, Stipe was working as a busboy in a restaurant, and they had hired for that night, because the news broke during the day, and everybody's like, "Oh, Elvis," and everybody's despondent, right? Rightfully so. The king, and so that restaurant that he worked at that night, they had already hired an Elvis impersonator.
I knew you were saying that. Oh man.
So he went on with the show as Elvis would have wanted him to do, I'm sure. But it was almost like, all these grieving women were there, and almost treating this guy as if he were really Elvis, and just like kind of getting it all out on him, the grief and the adoration. And
what an awkward moment.
Yeah, if you look through some of the lyrics, you can kind of tell a little, but it's not overt at all. There's no way I would have figured that out yet. But now Stipe's vocals sound purposefully unhinged and sloppy on this song.
They do.
Yeah, which I like. Fits that punky vibe of the album. Like we said, if R.E.M. ever made an art punk rock album, this was it. Life's Just a Pageant. I mean, if you listen to parts of this song, and I hope this makes you laugh, but it almost sounds like someone grabbed the microphone at karaoke and was like, they didn't really fully know the song.
They had like a couple drinks, and they were feeling real confident.
Yeah, and they were kind of a bit off, but in like an endearing way.
I can hear that.
That's kind of how I hear the song, yeah. Which honestly makes me like it all the more.
Well, and I will say, just a touch, and what if we give it away? Yeah, that's two of my Lato's favorite songs on the album, which is fascinating that they're both as old as they are. I didn't realize that.
Well, yeah, you bring up a good point. They had, gone on the road. They were road tested. They spread their wings. They had, I'm sure they, kind of connected with and opened for and had other experiences with other bands from the Atlanta region and around the country. So they had cut their teeth. So, maybe some of these older songs that didn't hold up as well to the newer stuff that they were writing because they were just a different band and a more experienced band. And, we could argue at that time, a better band.
Yeah, I'd be fascinated to see if there was, like you mentioned, if there was ever a super deluxe version with a bunch of B-sides. If there was some written around this time frame, I would imagine they might knock those two off.
Well, I know there is a deluxe version that was released years ago.
I don't have it.
Well, you should. I don't know. It's on Apple Music. I know that, so you can check out the tracks. I don't know what you use, but if I don't know well enough what's extra on that version to say for sure, because I know the Hyena demo is on there. But I would think there's got to be at least a couple B-sides. So
okay.
Now I'm curious to check that out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to go listen to those songs. So let's wrap this video up. So Brad, I'm gonna throw it over to you for Swan.
Yeah.
Explain.
I love this song. I am a big fan of this song. It's got a very different sound than the rest of it. Now, you did the research on the song. I didn't. I always thought Swan, or H, or whatever you want to call it, kind of stood for, well, it's Swan Hummingbird is what it's, obviously from the lyrics, was based on the shapes of the notes that are being played. Swan being the, what is that, a quarter note?
Oh, yeah.
And then the hummingbird being that round whole note.
See, now, you mentioned this in our podcast, because this song made it to your album as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, the research I did, I didn't say anything about that, but I remember when you said that way back when. I don't know if I looked it up at that time, but I think there's something to that. I'm guessing.
I've heard that somewhere. I read it somewhere, and it's just stuck with me ever since.
Yeah. Which, again, that would be just another example of the creativity and the outside-the-box thinking of Stipe and the band. So, yeah, this is a beautiful song. You're right. Now, because I do remember you saying the Swan instead of Swan H.
Yeah.
I did find out that it is supposed to technically be pronounced that way, but Mike Mills said at one point, he's like, all right, that's just a bit too pretentious even for us.
And he's right.
So he encouraged everyone to just say Swan H.
Yeah.
I think that's funny, but now you may not know, Brad, I know you love the song, but the band wrote this song in 20 minutes, and they were killing time when their tour bus broke down during the Fables tour.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. Now Buck called it fake Irish music. And it employs that folky storytelling and lyrics. Some of the lyrics actually, as you know, evoke Civil War imagery.
Oh, absolutely.
So the Johnny Reb and it's a cup of rye or cup of rye. I don't know. It sounds like it's from like the early 1800s.
I always like the line, "What noisy cats are we?"
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know where like you said, some were Civil War based, but some of the other ones I'm just like, what the hell is this based on? But I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said before, I mean, even if you just read some of these songs as like poetry or whatever,
Yeah.
it's like it's some of it seems like unhinged and kind of haphazard, but that's like the beauty of it. I don't know how to explain that better, but I don't
Hmm.
know. But so we finally reached the final song on this tremendous album, Life Search Pageant, and again, it's not listed on the back.
Why is that? Why are they not listed? I mean, come
Well,
on.
maybe because well, it doesn't explain why they didn't list the other one, but Brad, that
Hmm.
Superman is a cover song.
Yeah. Were they
Yeah,
thinking they weren't going to have to pay royalties if they didn't put it on the
yeah,
back? They just
exactly.
sneak it through? Wow.
Yeah, for underneath the bunker, they were like, "Ah, that's a little quick ditty. It's kind of a joke, whatever." And then Superman, we don't want to draw attention to that. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a lot of people know about REM, or in the early days, even before they formed, as they were kind of getting started, Peter Buck was working at a record store. So he would find these, interesting, unique songs and kind of off the beaten path stuff,
Hmm.
45. So this song is actually from a band that's based out of Texas, and they're called The Click, with QUE at the end, not the click.
Yeah.
um, and now, as I'm sure you know, this is a big moment for Mike Mills. This is his debut as a lead vocalist on
Oh, yeah.
REM.
And
I think,
he does so many great harmony. It's about time he gets his time in the sun.
yeah, yeah, and Stipe turns to harmony guy on this one, which is kind
Hmm.
of interesting, and I think they sound great together.
Yeah.
Um, now, again, because it was a cover, because Buck just found the song and the band liked it, and they would jam on it and have fun. Um, it was actually meant to be a B-side, but
Oh,
they
wow.
loved how it turned out when they recorded it. While they were jamming on it, they just threw it on the album.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
Just
but
don't title it. Just put it on the
yeah,
album. Just
exactly.
leave the
Yeah,
name off. No one will
there's no
notice.
way to no way to know,
Yeah.
unless I think if you look at the vinyl itself, I think it's on the actual vinyl on the inside. It's just that you can't tell from the outside. Yeah, it's listed on there on the inside.
Yeah, but you got to buy it for that to happen. So,
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, man, I tell you, I'm enjoying the series so much. And this album, like I said before, the energy, just the
mhm.
energy.
Yep.
Um, like I said, demands your attention. Um, I think it's very well crafted. I think that even just the order of the songs is great.
Yep.
And we know what's coming next. There's big hits to be had,
Oh, yeah.
all for albums and albums to come. But this is such a cohesive statement. And again, Don Gaiman, we got to give a tip of the hat to him as producer,
Mhm.
kind of bringing them to that more direct approach. And I think for both of us, this ended up being a home run.
Oh, absolutely. I love that album. And throughout the first four albums, I mean, my takeaway after four so far is I, not to say I slept on or didn't understand, but Mike Mills is a superstar. And
Oh,
this band would not be this band without Mike. You couldn't have just plugged and played these first four albums without him.
you're exactly right, and
Yeah.
it's because he's known as the bassist, but he's not
Yeah.
just the bassist.
Oh, no.
He's in the beginning, like we said, he was a man among boys, really,
Yeah.
with his musicianship and his talent.
Mhm.
And like we said, the other guys caught up real quick, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he's absolutely crucial to
Yeah.
the early success and the whole REM story.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and those vocals, I mean, there's a lot of, again, on this album, there's a lot of kind of twisting and turning and echoing vocals,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you repeat what the lead singer said and
What they
in the
call call and
background.
repeat or something like that, or yeah.
Yeah, call and answer. Yeah,
Yeah, call and answer. That's it. Yeah. I mean, it's just
yeah,
I never really realized how pivotal he was to what REM was at that point.
yeah, yeah. And if you think of, we could open it up even further to underrated rhythm sections.
Oh, yeah.
Him and Bill Berry. I mean, if you would just listen to some of these albums and just mute everything else and listen to the bass
Just
and
leave
drum.
them in. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's it's impressive. It's
Oh,
impressive.
absolutely.
So, all right, folks. Well, thanks for listening along at home, listening to the album and listening to us babble on. So yeah, Dead Letter Office is what came out next, but it's more of a collection of covers, B-sides, rarities. So, you know, we're going to skip that one, but it is a fun listen. If you're not familiar with Dead Letter Office. But next, I believe, is going to be Document.
Oh, here we go.
Here's where the bright lights of the world come and some big hits happen.
Yeah.
But, you know, how is the rest of the album hold up? So we're going to find out.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us on DISCNOLOGY. This was episode 4 of R.E.M. Life's Rich Pageant. Such a joy to do this. I know we've gotten some comments already that people are kind of waiting for the next one that we do and kind of listening along with us. And that's so gratifying. I mean, couldn't have even imagined that. You know, we started this a little over a year ago. And to have people that are like, oh, when's the next one coming out? And sometimes not as quick as we would like. So we apologize for that. But you know, to be serious though about it, Brad and I, obviously we have our own lives and things we need to do, but I, for one, and I'm sure Brad would agree, I really like to make sure I take the time and do the deep dive and really absorb the album, listen many times instead of just like, well, we want to have it ready by this next day or whatever. We really want to do it right. So we appreciate your patience as we go through this and take it as it comes. So anything you want to add here, Brad, about one of your, if not your, we'll find out eventually, favorite R.E.M. albums?
Well, up to this point of the 4, this is still my favorite of the 4 we've listened to. And like I said, Mike Mills has been a monster, and psyched we're learning more about his lyrics and Gaiman and what he did on that album. And so I'm excited to see going forward here. Like you said, diving into these albums is kind of new when you go in and just drown in it for a week. So I mean, we'll see how it goes.
Well, and I got to tell you, you know, I'm a huge Reckoning guy. Their second album. This one has poked its head up quite a bit for me.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that pans out as we get towards all the way to the end, which will be Collapse Into Now. Right?
We'll be like 70 by then, I think. Man.
Yeah, man, I'm starting to feel like that already. But so thanks for sticking around, guys. As always, for Brad, I'm Keith. This is the KMB Music Den. Please like this video, share it on social media, subscribe to the channel, smash the bell for notifications. We've got new album reviews coming out. There's a lot coming out. Rolling Stones are coming. Rolling Stones are coming. We're definitely going to review that. Hackney Diamonds. Yes. We're excited. The first 2 songs, wow. I mean, these guys are pushing 80. Wow. So I am so eagerly anticipating hearing that entire album and diving into it with you there, buddy. So thank you as always, folks, and we will see you real soon on the KMB Music Den, and thanks for watching.